Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to the show. What a week. What a week. I have a feeling I'm going to say this every week, but yeah, this was definitely quite a week. It's good to have the weekend, and we're getting a little deeper into September, and of course, this month has been green. We've had a green September so far. We're pretty darn close to halfway through because today's the 14th, tomorrow's the 15th. So yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good for that green month. Oh boy, we got we got lots of news, lots of news. I did want to start off the show with something a little different, just a little quick. I want to give a quick shout out to Scratch because we did the Friday market close, and on the way out, after I signed off, I'm on my way out. He dropped a super for I think it was for $5. It was a birthday super because those of you who know, yesterday was my birthday, so that was very nice, and I just wanted to acknowledge. I wanted to acknowledge that for sure. All right, so we got a great show ahead for you. We got a lot of news from the week. We're gonna kick the show off as we normally do. We're gonna kick the story off with our very first news story. Let's jump in. So, the government this week announced their infrastructure fast track. So, Carney announced on Thursday that first wave of projects to get the fast track treatment. So, these are 5 projects. They have been referred to a brand new office. So, this office is going to be based out of Calgary. It's called the Major Projects Office. So, this could be interesting. So, now there is a little bit of a catch, though. As there tends to be, I have a feeling these first 5 are, I think they picked some very easy ones because a lot of them are already well advanced into their approval or construction process. So I think these were more for visuals to show that something is getting done, but these are not the hard ones. Now they did say there will be more by the Grey Cup, so that is November. So we had a conversation on Friday about football. Not something I ever thought we'd be talking about on the stream, but hey, why not? So let's take a look at these projects. So what exactly do we have? First, we have LNG Canada Phase 2. So that's coming out of Kitimat up there in BC. So they're looking to double their export capacity. And all of the final decisions on this part of the project are going to happen by 2026. Now, Shell currently owns, they have a big chunk. They have a big part of that ownership. And some of the expenses on this, it's probably billions of dollars more to go into here. But this is a good project. This opens up more exports to Asia, opening up that market. So this is a good one. No ands, ifs, or buts, but this was probably going to happen even if it hadn't gotten this fast track. So I don't know how much time the fast track has saved us here, but okay, all right. So that's our first one. We also have in Ontario we got the Darlington New Nuclear. They're a $20.9 billion project. So basically, this is going to be Canada's first new reactor in, well, pretty much decades. I think the last one was in the late 90s. So this will be the first small, and they're also doing a modular. It's going to be the first small modular reactor, so an SMR in a G7 country. And it is scheduled to be all done, powered up, and everything by 2029. So that's another one. But once again, this was probably going to happen anyway. So I'm putting a little bit of question on some of these projects. Now on the third one, the Port of Montreal, so that is getting a $2.3 billion expansion. Basically, they want to increase container capacity by about 60%. This one is actually pretty cool. It will create about 8,000 construction jobs. Although right now, I think constructions is one of those sectors where we're having a hard time getting the people in. So hopefully we can find these 8,000 people. Yeah. In addition to that, there are still some environmental and sovereignty concerns. Part of the sovereignty concerns is that there's some foreign ownership involved in this one. So it's a tricky one. Now, there's also up in Saskatchewan at the McLivina Bay, they're doing a copper and a zinc mine. So this is going to be copper, and we got a story coming up on copper. Copper, I think, is fantastic. We are predicting a world shortage when it comes to copper. So this one is going to be the first net zero copper mine in Canada. It will create about 400 jobs. And the startup, they're expecting mid-2026. And already the costs on this are above $1 billion. So I still think this is one that would have moved ahead even without the fast track. But copper's not a bad thing to be looking at right now at all. Now, there's another mine in BC. It's the Red Chris mine expansion. So this is a 2.6 billion underground expansion, adding basically 10 years to that mine's life. Now, this will create 1,500 construction jobs. So we're going to have a lot of construction jobs for sure. They've also got some joint approval process with the Tahitian Nation. So that's good. We do want to have the native folk on board as well. Now this, I will point out though, if you guys remember recently in the news, those 3 guys that were trapped underground for a wee bit, this was this mine. So let's hope they keep safety in mind while they expand their underground. So the fast track announcement, I think it has strong optics, and I just think these were the projects that were already moving ahead. So for me, this doesn't get me excited. You know how I've been saying they've been talking the talk. I need to see them walking the walk. This is them making it look like they're walking the walk, but it's not the walking the walk. So I'll be more interested in seeing what other projects we hear about by the Grey Cup. So the next batch will be the ones I think that will be defining. And if it's a more, lobbing a softball, I'll be a little disappointed. So we'll have to see how this is going to look. Anyway, guys, let's jump in here and let's pull up the chat and let's jump in here. All right, Jonathan is first. Am I late for the copper rush? I don't think so. And Gursky says, might as well start with a like. And, that's just me. A Silver Bear 46. My Tesla calls did very well, thank you. Ooh, I like to hear that. I hope you made some profits. I always like to hear about profits for sure. Jack is in the house with a good afternoon. Another week of new all-time highs. Maybe. We're going to have to see what this week is going to look like. That's for sure. All right. Bismarcky says, happy Sunday to all. And we got a greetings all from Cowboy. And thought we weren't doing political. If it's related, I think what we're looking at, and all right, because guys, I'll talk about this again. So we sort of talked a little bit about politics on Friday, and that we have this habit, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. We have a habit of going off on these long political tangents, and we got to kind of pull back on some of them. We're going to still talk about politics. It's hard not to talk about politics because politics very much ties into investing. So we're going to talk about politics, but we're not going to go on these long tangents or, especially, things that really don't tie into investing. So there will still be politics on the channel, 100%. But we're going to try to peel back a little bit and try to stay, we're going to try to stay in our investing lane to the best of our ability. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. But obviously that first story, that's kind of political. It's a little political. It's also more, this is what's happening on that infrastructure front. So, and I think you'll find that we'll have more political discussions on this one, on the weekend show, opposed to the market closes. I think the market closes probably don't have a lot of room for politics. That should be pure stocks, but we'll definitely touch on politics for sure. Paul is in the house with a good afternoon. And Rory says, good afternoon on this warm Sunday. It is a warm Sunday. Joe says, happy birthday. Well, thank you. Thank you. It was yesterday, guys, yesterday. But, you kind of get a buffer around your birthday where, you're going to get birthday wishes a day before all the way up to a day after. Or later. Some people, then after, if it's one day after, I think it's still a happy birthday. But once you get to 2 days after, then I think you got to throw in the word belated at that point. All right, Jack says warm. It's raining here. A typical BC. Yeah, no, here it's pretty darn warm. This has been a pretty good weekend. I even had my windows. I had my windows open last night, and it was still nice and warm even in the night. So I like that. But fall's coming very fast. Saskatoon is sunny, okay, and Rory has a chance of thunderstorms later on. And Roku in the house saying, good afternoon, fellow financial investors. Jack says, I can't wait to move to Alberta or Saskatchewan in the next 5 years. Much more peaceful and affordable. Yeah, Alberta's a beautiful place to live. I think you'll like it there. I do. I have a very warm part in my heart that belongs to Alberta for sure. Cowboy says, combines are running here. More crop is harvested than standing. Yeah, well, we're full into harvesting season for sure. Rory says, yep, farmers are coming for their parts now. Cowboy says, breakdowns are part of the process. Yeah, for sure. And we got Mary in the house. Mary is in the house. Mary is our official captain of the like button. So guys, I get my first sip of coffee as you guys are all hitting that like button because you don't want Mary glaring at you if you don't hit the like button. So good. Fidu says volume is too low. Oh boy. Turn it up maybe? No, is everybody else having a volume issue? Let me know. Let me know if there's a sound issue. I want to get it taken care of ASAP. Jack says, I want to hear an offshore wind farm on either coast port owned by Northland Power. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing an offshore wind farm. I'm still really hoping. We got to see. I really think either in, I think there's two more big waves coming. One before the Grey Cup and one before the Stanley Cup. I really want to see a pipeline of some sort in there. I really, really do. MC says, gorgeous afternoon. Yeah, it is absolutely a nice afternoon for sure. A Cowboy says, net zero, what a farce. I was on a project where they dug a hole and flooded it, called it No Net Loss Lake, was to offset all the muskeg and wetlands they removed. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and this is kind of the thing. If you want to have net zero, all you need to do really is create some kind of a carbon capture program at the same time. Now I did a little bit of work for Alberta Innovates when I was in Alberta, and they were doing a lot of research on carbon capture for sure. And it's the way to go. Like, as long as you're offsetting the carbon you're producing, because you're going to produce carbon. There's no way around it. You got to mine, you're producing carbon. Heck, just standing outside, you're producing carbon when you breathe. So that's the way to go. It's just to offset it with some carbon capture, and I think everything should be fine at that point. Austin Steen says, my money's on Copper Corp Inc. in Tasmania. Interesting. Well, right now, guys, Copper's doing really, really well. And actually, our next story is, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it because we're talking about Copper. That's like what, the copper version of Stephen Harper. Carper. All right, never mind. Oh boy. Yeah, let's jump into that copper story. Let's just get that one done as well, just because we're talking about it. So there is a crazy demand for copper. So, and as it's been on the rise, we saw this week actually a very interesting merger. So we're looking at Tech Resources and Anglo American. So they are now merging. It's a 53 billion-dollar deal, and it's going to form a new company. They're basically taking a piece of each name. They're going to be called Anglo Tech. So the new company, they're going to be focused 70% entirely on copper, and this will make them one of the top 5 copper producers in the world. So this is actually pretty exciting. Now the merger does promises 800 million a year in cost savings, plus another 1.4 billion in profit boost from combining some of their big Chilean copper operations, because that's where their mines are, down there in Chile. Now the headquarters is staying in Canada, so they will headquarter in Canada, and they have pledged 4.5 billion in Canadian investment over 5 years. I like that. Canadian investment, that's good for us. Now that also includes they're going to be extending the Highland Valley copper mine, and they're also going to do some upgrades at Trail's smelting facility. So with the current increased demand in copper, and you guys have seen it, there's people out there running around stealing copper. I mean, copper is it's going to be big. So with these increased demands in copper, this could be a very good move, actually, for both companies, and of course the new merged company. Copper is basically, it's moving away from, it's not just like the wiring in your house. And I kind of mentioned this the other day, but it's becoming part of the backbone for AI data centers, EV, renewable power, and even a lot of military hardware as well. And there's a big demand for all of that. And this merger is showing the rush to lock up supply, and I said this, forecasts are right now pointing to a huge, very huge global copper shortage by 2030. So this is kind of big. Now, from an investing standpoint, I guess part of this is Anglo Tech is now going to be one of the purest copper plays for investors. So if you want a good copper play, this is a company you might want to look into. And some of their promised savings and their new output it could actually very well be very good for their balance sheets. And that, of course, you guys know, if it's good for the fundamentals, it tends to be good for the share price as well. And of course, their pledges of 4.5 billion in Canadian investment, it's not a bad thing for Canada. So that's pretty darn good. And of course, that macro tailwind, demand forecast to jump 70%. And that's the thing. And we were talking about 2030 shortage, but overall demand for copper is going to go up 70% by 2050. And, copper-linked equities and ETFs could very well benefit big time. So if you don't have a copper play, you might want to think about it. Because I think copper is going to be strong. I think it's going to be strong. All right, let's get back to the chat. We were talking about copper, so I was like, let's get that out of the way. All right, Philly. Here we go. Philly D. Of course, it's not a copper question, is it? It's is Alphabet undervalued? So Google. They might be. Now, here's the thing about Google. I think Google they're a fantastic company. The fact that they don't have to lose Chrome now, that's really good. So they won that legal battle. They've also got a really new interesting tool out there too. When you're talking about AI, there's this little thing called Nana Banana, and it's pretty darn good. Image wise, it's beating, if I use ChatGPT to make an image, Nana Banana will run circles around that. So there's a lot of good stuff happening at Google, and I think YouTube is also looking really, really strong. And I think Google are they undervalued? They might be a little bit. I hate to say yes or no to that, because I think tech overall is kind of, a lot of people think of it as a bubble. They think that all you know the Magnificent Seven are perhaps overvalued at this point in time. There will be a correction at some point. We know this, but I think I think Google's a good long term bet. So I got no problems with Google. Mary wants to know, did I have a good birthday? It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Saturday is that one day that I don't have to do anything. It's the one day of the week. So, yeah, I pretty much, it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice. I think I'm probably behind on a few comments on some videos, but I'll get caught up. I'll get caught up today or tomorrow. But yeah, it is pretty good. It was a pretty good day. Reverend Ramirez, good to see you again. I saw Wealthsimple might be enabling precious metal trading. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Of course, you can do it already through ETFs or through companies, but this could be another interesting aspect. And as I said, this is one of the reasons I like Wealthsimple. They just keep on creating more stuff and bringing more stuff and more options for us. So it'll be interesting to see how this actually ends up rolling out. Yeah, Austin Steen said I saw that as well. Jack says, anyone own Rio Tinto stock? Yeah, I mean, and there's another one right there, Rio Tinto. Well, we're here. Let's take a look. Rio. Here we go. Rio Tinto. All right. I'm going to pull this up here. All right. So Rio Tinto, and let me just pull this up here. So basically, they're a mineral company. They invest in a lot. They extract a lot of minerals. Let's see. And I think copper is one of them. So yeah, aluminum, copper, diamonds, gold, industrial materials. All right. Let's take a look here. And this is actually interesting with them. A lot of mineral companies have been doing really, really well. They've been kind of moving sideways. They are slowly moving up, but not like a lot of companies out there. So I think the Canadian side, I think a lot of the Canadian companies, so this is a US one, are just doing absolutely great. Let me show you this. We were looking at this the other day. This is a copper company that I've liked them for a while, but let me just pull up the 1 year. They've had some explosions. So they had this big jump from basically they were kind of almost a penny stock, not quite, penny adjacent, and they've absolutely they've more than doubled in value. So that's the whole thing. I think we're seeing a lot of great stuff within, and of course, everybody remembers one of my favorites, of course, London Gold. Now, gold is not. Now they the last 5 days they've been coming down a little bit, but they're coming down from this giant massive. I mean, look at this. A year ago they were worth $30.51, and now they're worth $88. So they've more than doubled their value. They've more than doubled, almost tripled, not quite though, but yeah, they're doing fantastic. Now, part of the gold thing is not just because the mineral is needed, and gold is needed. Like, you use gold, most electronics use a little bit of gold because of the way the conduction on gold is really, really good. But it's not just that. It's also that safe haven when people think the market is in trouble. And there's been a lot of volatility. We've had a green market. We've done all these all-time highs, but we've also got a good amount of volatility baked in there, thanks to, of course, Donald Trump and some of his more interesting maneuvers. We'll call it that. So what can I say? Larry's in the house. Let's see. My gold miner 2X Bull ETF, so NUGT, so bought in December 26, 2023, is up from $28 to $129. Oh, look at that. And this is great. Like, Larry got in before all of this, and has ridden up a wave, an incredible wave. Now, let's actually take a look at this one here. So that's NUGT. I should have it on here. NUGT. Let's see here. Here we are. Yeah, it's one of the Direxion Daily Gold Miners 3X. It's a 3X. So this is using leverage 3 times. So these are dangerous. These are dangerous. But look at this. That's with 3 times leverage. So I don't know how much you put in there, Larry, but brilliant. That's a brilliant move. And this is that 3. This is the 3 year. So so Larry got in here on what? September 2023. So let's see here. Yeah, right about, there we go. Right about here. Right about here. That's where Larry got on. And that's a good ride. That is a good ride for sure. Ian says, I used to own Rio Tinto, sold it for SPYI. Okay, fair enough. And Rory says, October is coming up, so looking forward to turkey, chicken, gravy, potatoes, and pie. Yes. Yeah, October. And October, I got my mom coming for Thanksgiving. So that's our one Sunday where we're actually not gonna have a show. Holy banana bread. I don't know when the last time I missed a Sunday. It's been a while. So Reverend Ramirez, MDA dropped 30% since I bought it. Wonder if that's an overreaction from losing EchoStar deal. That's actually one of our news stories. I do have a news story on this, but yes, it is very much a reaction to that. And I've got it all broken down, so we will look at that a little bit later. Pierre is in here saying, good afternoon, Candace. Happy late birthday. Thank you. And Ian says, took the rat rod out this afternoon. Nice weather. Nice. And Evergreen says, so good. I guess. Rory says, volume is good for me. All right, cool. Larry says, I'm celebrating with Dino Nuggies and what's a Dino? Dino Nuggies. Dino Nuggies and fries. I'm not sure what the Dino Nuggie is. That might be a U.S. thing, Larry. Or I just don't get out enough. One of the two. Brian says, good afternoon, everyone. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Carney is trying to prove his cup runneth over. Yes. Well, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that these first group might very well be, let's lob an easy ball out there. Get some projects, so we get some stuff on the books. This new department can have something to work on while we figure out what we're gonna do. But let's get moving soon. And pretty soon the House of Commons will be open, and I am looking forward to the first question period for sure. Rory says, oh boy, the HOC is going to rival Netflix this week. The HOC. The House of Commons. The House of Commons. Duh. All right, I got it. For real. Silver Bear says, Larry, you must have nerves of steel to have withstood the drawdowns. I was stopped out in December after the 50% collapse. Yeah, and that's the thing, guys, especially, I mean, if you're playing with, when you're playing with leverage too, oh boy, you kind of do have to have nerves of steel. Or, I guess in investing, we call it diamond hands. You need those diamond hands sometimes, but, and that type of investing is not for everyone. Now, Larry's making money for other people, so, he's running a fund. So that's a whole different story than, than Joe Blow sitting in the back, sitting in a basement on a computer, just investing a little bit of money here and there. Totally different story, completely. Lisa is in the house with a hi, everyone. Jack says, wouldn't be surprised if far leftists. All right, you see, these are the things that we're not going to talk about. I don't think I hope not. Anyway. All right. Jean says, is it time to buy Air Canada? So let's take a look. I will tell you, I've already opened a position. I opened a position at 19. And even though it has come down, I'm not really concerned. I still think 19 is not a bad place. So right now, taking a look. Yeah, so look here. We got 1875. And at one point, look at this, it made it down to 1860. So yes, I think this is a good time. Like I said, I did my initial buy-in at 19. I have averaged a little bit down, of course, because they've come down, but at least in the challenge, I averaged down. I didn't average down on my main trade. That, of course, the channel members are all aware of. By the way, guys, one of the benefits to being a channel member is you get access to the swing trades, my main swing trade account. So any of the big trades I make, I'm posting in there, letting you guys know. And I think right now, is it 4? I think I've got 4 on the run. I'm probably looking to open up a couple more this week. Who knows whether or not I'll be closing any of those 4. Right now, it doesn't look like it. It's either 4 or 3. It could be 3, now that I think about it. I think it's 3. All right. But still, nonetheless. All right. Let's see here. Silver Bear. Answering to Larry. All right. So, yeah. And guys, especially on this weekend show, I'm going to be skipping stuff. Now. We finally got to that point where it gets so busy that I get so far behind if I read everything. So any conversations that you guys have with each other, those I'm going to skip. I will be absolutely skipping those. Jack says Google should be closer to 300. I would agree. I think Google is worth more than it's at. So, but is it undervalued? I think it's undervalued a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Pierre says, hello, Candace. HHIS seems interesting. Would it be wise to take a risk and buy lots of shares, example, 200 shares of HHIS, just for regular incomes of $50 a month? It would be 25% of my portfolio. Okay. Well, you have to sort of look at your risk profile. I can't just sit here and say, yes, go do that. I can't tell you that. What I can say is that I do like HHIS. And in fact, if you guys remember that windfall video I did for the hybrid portfolio, I've got the income version of that dropping on Tuesday. Channel members will be able to see that tomorrow. And, HHIS might have a place in that portfolio. It probably does. I'm trying to say might to build suspense, but let's all be honest here. Yes, it's in there. I do think it's a good stock. I think you do have to weigh it. Stock, ETF. I think you do have to weigh your risk. Make sure that it is within your risk level. Make sure you understand exactly what you're getting before you jump in at that level. If it's within your risk profile, then sure. But definitely do all of the due diligence for it, for sure. Because when you're looking at 25%, you want to make sure you're 100% sure before you jump in to that. All right. I'm skipping past a few things here. All right. Larry says dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets. So those are the dino ones. Okay. I don't know if I've ever had a dinosaur shape. Now, are they? Let me ask this question. Are they different? Are they all the same dinosaur shape, or you got different ones like a T-Rex and a Triceratops and maybe an Ankylosaurus? You got a few of them. Paul says for kids, more coating than chicken. Probably. And see, that might be dinner for me. Change his name to Joe Blow. Yeah. Good old Joe Blow. It was actually funny. So when I was, I think it was grade 8? I think it was it was grade 9. So grade 9 social studies teacher. He was also the librarian. But he came up with a whole bunch of these people, and now they're stuck in my head, and every so often I use them. So we had Joe Blow, Harvey Hump Scruncher, and then there was another one, Sally Sidewalk Smasher, but I don't use that one because it kind of implies that she might be a little on the big side, perhaps. But yeah, anyway, they were all of them. They were there, and now they're in there. Cowboy, have you bought Big E? I have not. I have not bought Big E as of yet. So, and that's the thing. And guys, I will point out, there's a lot of new ETFs. So I don't want to buy every single new one that comes out, but I'm watching them. I'm definitely watching them for sure. And I do like Big E, and I like the idea of the other one, Maple, but it hasn't come out yet. We actually looked on Friday, and I'm like, oh, because where Evolve had mentioned Biggie and Maple at the same time, I figured they would release at the same time, but they have not. They have not. So what can I say? All right. How would you say the Canadian economy will do in the event of a U.S. recession and the Canadian stock market? Here's this interesting thing. Oops. I don't think there's ever been in history. I don't think. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever had a U.S. recession that hasn't resulted in Canada going into a recession. So, how will the market happen? I think we'll see a bear. Like, I'm still expecting a bear market, recession or not. When? I don't know. Like, I actually expected a bear market before the end of this year. And, well, we do have one negative quarter of GDP. And, we could have a technical recession by the end of the year, depending on what the next quarter does. So I do think we're going to see a recession. I think we will see a recession. I also think we will see a bear market. But here's that thing. I just don't know when. Right now, it's looking like 2026. But, it looked like it was going to be 2025 too. So that's kind of that interesting thing. Now, keep in mind that, and this is kind of this interesting situation we're in right now, is that the huge success of Canadians' mining company, they're propping up our economy quite a bit right now. And if they continue to do that, this is where, if we get back to the beginning where I said that if the U.S. goes into a recession, Canada always goes into a recession as well. Could we see a situation where the U.S. goes into a recession, but gold and mining prop us up enough that we don't fall into a recession? Could that happen? I don't know. But I will be watching. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. All right. Also, are ETFs Canadian tax exempt? I'm taking, so in some cases, and this is actually an interesting thing. When you start talking about taxes and ETFs, so as I've always mentioned, we got a couple of things that happen. So anytime a management company is holding U.S. companies, right? So the IRS, they're going to look at that. They're going to have their withholding tax. Now, not all the time, though. And here's kind of this interesting thing. Some of our management companies here, they actually will claim it as not so much as income, they'll claim it as capital gains. So if they claim it as capital gains, it doesn't have a withholding tax in that case. So in some cases, there's a lot of different scenarios that the management teams or the management companies of ETFs use here to really limit the amount of American tax that they pay. And that's probably a good thing, because that means that in the long term, you're getting better returns. So that is definitely a factor that comes into play. And I don't know if that's what you were asking or not, but it is kind of a very interesting thing. All right. T-Rex and Stegosaurus. Okay, interesting. Oh, I like that. All right, Gursky says, does anyone know what a good Canadian ETF that covers the gold and copper miners along with oil and gas stocks? Good old VDY is more financials. Okay, well, there's a few different things. So I can think of two right away. So one of them is, and I still have it up here. So if you're looking for income at the same time, and we got GLCC. So this here's the Global X Gold Producer Equity. Now this is just gold though. And I think you're looking for gold, copper, and oil. So this is just one option. Now this one here, they do use covered calls, but you don't get a huge distribution. So your dividend is about 6.175%. But here's them over the last 3 years. They've been doing really, really well with the price of gold. There's also a new one by BMO. It's, oh God, what is it? ZW... Oh boy. ZWGD? Is that it? Yeah, here it is. So this here is the BMO covered call spread gold bullion. it's not that new. I think it was. Here we go. So it started here in, well, okay, yeah, it is new. It started here in May. So from May, and oh boy, look at this. It's done really, really well. Now this is an interesting one because they actually write double covered calls on things with different strike prices. Well, it's not that they write one and they buy one, and it creates this thing called a spread. So it kind of creates a little bit more upside protection than a normal covered call. Hence, hence, look at this. They've been doing really, really well with it. Now, this one here, even though it's covered calls with a spread, you're not getting a huge distribution. You're getting a 4.622%. But like I said, because they're writing options and buying options at the same time, basically they're buying the option so that way when the strike price is hit, it mitigates that damage. So that way you're still losing a little bit of upside, but you're not losing as much as you would with like a traditional covered call. So this one here is the BMO. Let me just pull this back here. BMO covered call spread gold bullion. So that's another option out there as well. But you're talking about, now, I don't know, and guys, if one of you guys knows, let me know. If there is one that does have like gold, copper, and oil and gas in there as well. So I think you're probably going to have to look at two separate ones. But yeah, maybe there's one out there I don't know about. And if any of you guys know, throw it in here. All right, Rory says, Larry, no Brontosaurus burgers like Fred always used to eat. The Brontosaurus burger. Brian says, I'll probably invest my dividends for the next while in some Maple and HHIS. Yes. Now, Maple, and this is what I was looking at the other day. I don't know when this is coming out. It's not showing up yet. So I'm hoping it comes out a little bit sooner. All right. Clint says, hello, Candace. If you're looking for a Canadian copper producer, Hudbay Minerals. They avoid much of Trump's tariffs with a mine in the U.S. They also have a large gold division. Hudbay. I've never looked at Hudbay. Let me see if I can find them. Hudbay. Here we go. Hudbay Minerals right here. All right. Let's take a gander at Hudbay. And I have a feeling I'm going to hit this one year. I'm a feeling that we're going to see some good stuff here. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. So yeah, a year ago they were $10.31. Now they're $18.75. They're moving in the right direction. I think we're at a point right now that you could take, and I mentioned this, I think I mentioned this Friday, you could take all of these copper companies, put them on a dartboard, blindfold yourself. Now, as long as you can hit the board. Now, if you hit the wall next to the board, that doesn't count. But yeah, you could throw a dart, and you're probably hitting profit. That's just the way it kind of is. So yeah, this is another one, and this is pretty 1875. That's not bad, not bad. And let's see here, they got a small dividend. So you're in this one for the growth, and it's also one of them semi-annual ones, so twice a year. Yeah, but definitely not a bad company. And I have a feeling, I'm just going to the back end for a second because I am curious. I'm hoping to see no debt. But you never know. We'll take a look. A 40% debt to equity, a little bit of debt, but it's not bad. Their return on equity, 10.81%. That'll probably go up with where I think copper's going. So yeah, I'm going to like it. Let's see. Didn't we skip the recession in 2008? So with the housing crisis, that's a good question. I really thought we had a recession here. But yeah, I'll have to double check that. I'll have to look into 2008. But I will say one thing. I actually lost my job in 2008 at that time because of the housing crisis. And part of the reason was I was making some half decent money. I was, because I was in management. And the company that I was working for, they just bought an American company just before the crap hit the fan, let's just say. And that almost dragged them down. People who are making higher than normal wages in the company, um, they were sent their packing papers pretty quickly. And it was actually funny. So I didn't get laid off until 2009, but early in 2009. And so after the housing crisis happened, I was in a meeting, a management meeting, and I said, "Yeah, my name is on the chopping block, guys. I don't think I'm going to be here for long." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Trust me on this one. Trust me on this one. What just happened in the U.S. The ripple effects. We're in trouble." And I was very right. I was very right. Um, let's see. The doom will come by 2027. Beware the housing crash and giant oil jump. Nothing surprises me anymore. But yeah, I mean, we're going to pay the piper for these tariffs. That is going to happen. There is going to be chaos, financial chaos. There will be ripple effects. This is the thing. Right now, we're getting off easy. Like, when we look at what everybody thought was going to happen with these tariffs, it hasn't quite realized that way yet. But oh boy, the damage is cumulative. The damage is cumulative. Now, on the bright side, at least this Wednesday, so on the 17th, we should see rate cuts on both sides of the border. So 25 basis points here and with the Fed as well. So that, it's not like that's going to save us, but yes, it's going to be interesting. Paul says, when I was into dividend growth investing, I had a few in Simply Wall Street Profile EIY and Dollarama. Yeah, Dollarama has done fantastic. EIY, I've really not looked at EIY. That's because I don't see them. I don't see I was like, what is EIY? I don't know what that one is, but that's fine. But Dollarama, of course, Dollarama I do have here. There we go. Good old Dollarama. I'm going to let's just pull up the 3-year. I mean, now they're kind of moving sideways right now, but they've had a pretty big run. And you got to remember, one thing I love about Dollarama right now is they did buy that chain out in Australia. So they're expanding in Australia. They're basically, the chain, now mind you, the chain they bought, they were not doing super well. So they're basically bringing their Dollarama model into that chain. And I think that'll turn things around, and that's going to be a lot more revenue coming in. So I think, I get a lot of questions like, hey, has Dollarama finally passed their peak? Are they finished? And they're, it's like, no. Oh, Paul just mentioned it's EIF. EIF, okay. Here we go. EIF, Exchange Income Corporation. There we go. Let's see here. Just pull them up here. And we'll pull up the 3-year. And yeah, I can see some movement here a little bit. There's a little bit of volatility built in there as well, but that's not always so bad. Okay. Marco says the recession is here. The government is using immigration to hide it. You could say that's true. The immigration that we were seeing. So, of course, it caused a lot of problems as we had record high immigration. That certainly did inflate numbers quite a bit. If we had not had our immigration pumped up, I'll pull up big screen for a moment. If we had not had our immigration pumped up as much as we had it, back in the Trudeau days, we probably would have hit a technical recession, definitely. But yeah, it did help. Now, of course, you'll notice now that we've put all kinds of limits on immigration and we've slowed it down because, housing, our social services, we kind of need that. We are starting to see some of that retracement, and it's going to be very interesting to see. Now, we obviously do need immigration. But at this point right now, I just want to see more houses. I want to see us get caught up before we turn that throttle back on again. All right. Larry said, note my prediction, and let's circle back in 2027. Note your calendars. Absolutely. That's the thing. Another housing crash, that would not be good. That would not be good. But there's a lot of stuff. Even just when you look at the indicators, In normal times, if we had the indicators that we're seeing today, we'd be worried. But people are not as worried as I think we should be. But at the same time, things just keep on trucking along nonetheless. All right, Zamayer says, yeah, but Canada is a big oil exporter, and oil is and will probably remain low. For now, yes, oil is definitely an area that we're not doing well in oil because, yeah, OPEC has, of course, increased production. OPEC seems to think there's a bigger demand for oil than what the rest of the world seems to think, and they're using that as part of that is their justification for raising their output levels. And yeah, oil right now, oil's not carrying the Canadian economy. It's gold and mining. So that's the thing. Maybe gold and mining is like the new oil for now. So that's definitely good for, Saskatchewan and a few other provinces for sure. Kiev and Kaz is in the house with a good afternoon, gang. Cowboy says, but don't Canadian companies like Fortis and Enbridge pay the tax on dividends? Was wondering if it's the same on Canadian ETFs. All right, let me take a look here. So let's see, Fortis. You got to look. I mean, Fortis is kind of an interesting thing, and Enbridge as well. So Fortis, of course, a lot of the company is actually set up. Like, there's a big American footprint on Fortis. Like, Fortis provides a lot of power and utilities, in the continental U.S. So that, of course, a couple of things. I mean, obviously, the American division of Fortis, that's all going to stay in-house. And whether or not, now, I don't know how the taxes are going to work. And I'm not, when you're talking about these dividends on Fortis, like, are you talking about Fortis's dividends? Because if you're getting dividends from Fortis or Enbridge, yes, they have an American side to the company. And yes, that goes into their earnings and everything. But they're still considered Canadian companies from the Canadian side. So, and not only are they Canadian companies, their dividends are Canadian eligible dividends, meaning that you're paying less. You're paying less on them than you would be on non-eligible dividends. So I think that's where you're going. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's where you're going. So, all right, let's see. In 2027, the Bears will have their revenge. The revenge of the Bears. Uh-oh. All right. Brian says base from Evolve is a mining enhanced ETF. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a gander at base. All right, come on. Here we go. So yeah, materials and mining. So this probably is going to give you that copper as well, I think. Let's see here. Whoops, it helps if I bring it up. I should share it. Here we go. So yeah, base. This is the Evolve Global Materials and Mining Enhanced Yield Index ETF. So here we go. So let's see here. The performance of Selective Global Materials and Mining Index. So that's great. The fact that they're replicating the Selective means that they are getting exposure to a lot. So that you're going to get a good exposure across the board. So now, I don't think that you're going to get your oil in this, but I think you're going to get your minerals. Definitely your copper, your gold, lithium, you name it. I think you're going to get it with this one. But yeah, this is a good one. And of course, you're getting a nice dividend on this, 10.403%, because they are writing covered calls on this one as well. I don't know if they use leverage or not. Let's see here. It doesn't mention leverage here, but I always go to the Evolve site if I want to find out. Let's see. ZWGD, Adriano did a video with the fund manager. Nice. So yeah, that's that one with the spread, with the covered call spread. So where they're writing and they're buying options at the same time on that fund. So if you're doing your due diligence when it comes to ZWGD, check out that video that Adriano did. I don't know how long ago he did that video, but the fund hasn't been around that long, so it's probably fairly recent. So yeah, check that out, guys. Check that out for sure. Rory says the bears are sharpening those talons, waiting for the fund managers and institutions to instill the big shorts. That's for sure. CC says, watch the CBC video about the New Brunswick farmer unable to sell her Wagyu beef within New Brunswick. New provincial rules have now restricted local agriculture. That's crazy. I'm just looking at that. I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Yeah, that's a little on the crazy side. Yeah, I know. I've not heard of this until right now. This is the first time I'm hearing this, but to me that sounds a little bit crazy. And my understanding as well, Wagyu beef is actually pretty darn good. So, well, I guess that's more for the rest of us in Canada. But why would they do that? Larry says also my name is a colloidal, like Larry Brit slang. Let's get Larry. A wild crazy. So wild crazy summers. I just happened to spell it wrong when creating this account. Okay. All right. I get it. I get it. Paul says, yeah, Hamilton has AMAX Gold Producer Yield Maximizer. They do. Actually, let's take a look at AMAX here. I'm kind of curious how they are looking compared to the rest of gold. Here we go. Let's pull up. I'm just gonna pull up the 1 year. Yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, this is actually pretty darn good. Now, this one as well. You're getting almost a 7% dividend on there. But you know, the thing is, if you're investing in gold, you're not. If you're looking for high income, you're not really looking at gold. Gold is going to give you high value. It's going to be great for growth. But something like this is not too shabby either, because, you know, 6%, you're at least getting some pretty good, that's not a bad dividend. It's funny, even 3 years ago, 6% was considered a high yield. not so much anymore. 6% is kind of mid-road on the way to high, but not quite there. But yeah, this is pretty good. I like it. All right. Jersky says, I will check that out. All right. Let's see here. U.S. had a recession during Biden administration. We just changed the definition and the name of it. That's the thing, too. I mean, nobody really wants to have a recession, and that's the thing. I think a lot of governments will do everything they can to, even if we get into a technical recession, to not call it. So it'll be fun. CP Rail did mass layoffs of conductors in 2008, myself included. Oh, gosh. Yeah. I mean, 2008 was rough. I mean, it was rough for Canada. Whether or not we went into a recession, I mean, it was rough. Well, here, you know what? Let's go to Google. Let's find out if we had a recession in... all right, let's just do it this way. Canadian recessions. There we go. Just show me. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, it says we had one. So these are the key Canadian recessions. So it said December 2007 to June 2009. All right, I thought that was a recession. And interestingly enough, guys, COVID-19. So when I always look at that COVID spike, that was basically one of the shortest recessions on the books. So February to April of 2020 was, they called it a recession. Although it technically would not have hit the technical recession point. Although I imagine they probably, yeah. But it was technically a recession. Well, it's kind of interesting. We sort of went immediately into a very strong bull market right after that. So there we are. So here we go. This is going all the way back to, it's only going back to the 70s, but you know, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, that was a recession. Let's see. The Danters lost a lot in the 2008 crisis, if I remember correctly. I believe so. I can't remember the exact details, but I remember them talking a little bit about it online. Cowboy says, in 08, we had no banks failed. American banks were dying like flies on a purple light bug zapped. True enough. Now, part of it, though, and this is the thing, I do use the word resilience with our financial sector, and that's the thing. Our banks are built to survive recessions, you name it. So the banks I always worry about is once you get outside the big six, you start looking at little banks, there, especially regional banks. Oh boy. And it's not even as bad up here in Canada. In the United States, you get a lot of regional banks. And even some of the banking crisis that we saw in the last few years, it was those little regional banks. Those are the ones that tend to go. Paul says, funny, September 4th and 5th was Broadcom. September 11th and 12th was Tesla. What is this coming week like? I know. There's going to be nervousness. I think there's going to be nervousness on the market up until Wednesday because of that rate cut. Because, there will be people who are like, well, what if we don't get it? What if we don't get the rate cut? And, there'll be people a little bit worried. So we might see volatility in the first part of the week. Once we get the rate cuts, I think we'll see, I think the end of the week will be stronger. But at the same time, oh boy, it's almost anybody's guess how this is gonna look. But that's what that's what I'm predicting. I think volatility Monday, Tuesday, going into Wednesday, and then I think we'll finish the week stronger. Marco, don't let the tariffs fool you. They are not the reason we are in trouble by December. Don't be surprised if we have 800,000 plus jobs lost. That's a lot of jobs. If we were to lose 800,000 jobs, that'll push the unemployment rate up pretty big. I'm trying to think of how many workers we actually have in Canada, because 800,000 seems like a lot, but we'll see what happens. Gursky, sorry. The grain prices are taking a big hit lower, and fertilizer is high, and the tariffs aren't helping. Yeah, absolutely. Cowboy, if we limit immigration, the houses will rebalance. Well, they've already there's a lot of limits right now on immigration. That's one of the reasons that, so when we have rate cuts, rate cuts tend to push up things like utilities and REITs. They become much more attractive investments. One of the things that we saw is we started to see that happening when we had that big batch of rate cuts last year. But then, oh boy, then as we were coming out of the summer, we put the kibosh on immigration, and we put in a lot of limitations on that, and that did hurt REITs a little bit. That did help pulled them out of that movement to the upside. Just one of the factors, of course. So, eventually we'll have to sort of see how this is all going to look. But, you got to look at it. There's all kinds of interesting stuff. Like, look at look at Toronto. Just look at the condos in Toronto. We've got a lot of empty condos because people just can't sell them. So, yeah, it's going to be, I think it'll still be interesting. Zemayer says automation will hopefully be the end of immigration. Yeah, probably. That's one of the things too. And I think robots sound sci-fi, right? When I say robots are coming, it sounds pretty darn out there. But the reality is we're a lot closer than you think. We are a lot closer. Tesla's working overtime. They're not the only one. So as we get more robots, and I think Tesla is more or less in the humanoid robots, but as the robots, start moving in, yeah, there's going to be a lot less jobs. People will have to adapt. People will have to find other types of income, other types of work. Society, I think, over the next 10 years, there's going to be, I would say, massive changes to just the society in general. It's going to look very different on the other side. All right. Paul's talking to Marco. Okay, Rory, industrial carbon tax needs to go, among other things. Yeah, I'm not a fan of carbon taxes. I don't like taxes, to be honest, but we have to have some level of taxes because obviously something has to pay for our roads or infrastructure, all of that. But I'd like to see governments use money. And this is a pipe dream. I'd like to see them to use money responsibly. And it doesn't matter who we have in. They don't. They never do. All right, Larry says, I'm getting my butt kicked on my Tesla Bear ETF, but buying more. Okay. Brian says, I was going to be done working on a 6-story building in Brampton for Algoma University. I already did all the steel work on the major Reno. This would be the final Reno on hold now. Yikes. Yeah. Taxes need to spend in Canada, not given to other countries. Yeah, absolutely. I don't. Let's see. I don't recall the term tax eligible. Well, yeah, and it's Canadian eligible dividends. It just if it is from a Canadian company, those dividends are treated differently than companies like some companies, for example, some of that income is coming from foreign, and this is kind of my understanding. Some of it's coming from non uh, non Canadian companies that operate within Canada, for example. That would be the best thing. So yeah, if you have a non-Canadian company operating within Canada, sometimes those dividends are not considered Canadian eligible because they want you to invest in the Canadian company as opposed to a foreign company operating on Canadian soil. So that foreign company, they might have ineligible Canadian dividends. It just means that you're going to get taxed a little bit more on them than you would on a company that has Canadian eligible dividends. Let's see. All carbon tax needs to be eliminated. Was it Nova Scotia or New Brunswick with the crazy fines for going into the woods? Nova Scotia. It was Nova Scotia. Interesting little thought, guys. So when you look at the Maritimes, you got Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, all kind of being their own distinct little provinces, but the people are very much alike. Other than, well, oh my gosh, my nose is just totally itchy today, and I don't know why. Other than the fact that they're like New Brunswick, there's a lot of French in New Brunswick, but for the most part, I think they would actually make one nice province altogether. I think they should merge. I think I don't know how many people believe that, but I just think it would be a good thing for that region and also give a better voice in the House of Commons for sure. But well. Gursky says, I raise a Wagyu beef and Angus. Okay, interesting. Oh boy. I don't know about that, Rory. That's funny though. All right. Larry says, Treasury Secretary, we're not in a recession. We're just in a phase where growth is slowing. Yeah. Nice, welcome back, Nice. Hey, what do you think about the rate go down? As a foreigner investing in Canada, I see the drop in Canadian. So yeah, I expect a rate cut on Wednesday. So I'm thinking 25 basis points here in Canada. I also see the U.S. doing the same thing, but yeah, 25 basis points. I'm pretty sure. I would be really, really shocked if it didn't happen. All right. Paul says HYLD has 5.4 AMAX. HDIV has 16.3% AMAX. So they both have gold producers. Yeah. It makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. Because gold right now, I think gold's going to be big probably for the next few years. Rory, CP share price back in 2007-08 was around $25 to $30 under Fred Green. Okay. All right. Rate cuts equal, let's see, bullish for the great cryptos like Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Solana. Yeah, I mean, that could be definitely good for them for sure. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said Thursday the U.S. economy is in a state of transitory or transition, not recession. I don't know about that. All right, let's see here. All right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here just because I'm really far behind. Toronto pre-sale tiny condos not able to close and the person still owes money without any property. Yikes. Yeah. Litecoin is up, 5.9%? That's not bad. Novo Nordisk is laying off 9,000 jobs globally. I think we are in a global recession. I think the media just pushing AI as the scapegoat. Governments don't want people to panic and stop spending. Yeah, and here's the reality, though, right? If you have a lot of major layoffs, well, is it cheaper to bring back those people on the other side or to bring in automation with AI? Just something to think about. So If you're getting laid off right now, you may not have, depending on what you're doing, you may not have a job to come back to. It might be taken over on the other side of this. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. I could be, maybe I'm being a little paranoid on that, but we'll see. Toronto condo market, a shoebox for $1 million, and who can afford that on a Walmart wage? Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, on a Walmart wage, you can't even afford to rent an apartment. I think I saw a statistic the other day that you need to be making, to afford a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto, I think you need to be making around $78,000. That's crazy. As a welder, there are already thousands of robot welders. They will never be able to do Reno work that I do. Well, maybe 50 years down the road they could. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're a very specialized field, you're probably safer. Whereas if you look at, let's say, for example, if you work in a call center, your days are numbered. Your days are numbered because AI is going to take all of that. Yeah, it really comes down to specialization. The more specialized you are, the safer I think you're going to be. Because I think they're going to start, taking out jobs that don't require a lot of specialization. So, call centers, maybe a lot of different customer service type things. I could even see things like troubleshooting going to AI as well. So AI is going to take over quite a bit. But if you're specialized, and one of the things I will always say, if you're worried in your job about AI, the people who will get laid off first are the people who don't know how to use AI. So, it makes a lot of sense to get familiar with AI and be that employee who knows how to get the most out of AI, because that will save you. It may not save you forever, but it might buy you a few more years. As a mayor, if carbon taxes get offset by lowering other taxes, it's a net benefit. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I guess total taxes is kind of that thing. You bring total taxes down, I'll complain less about the other taxes. Even if you raise a tax. If you raise a tax, but you've still brought the total taxes I'm paying down, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Rory, just put a tent underneath the Milton Water Tower. If your income is low enough, eligible dividends are negative tax rates in BC. Oh, nice. Rami. Hi, Rami. What's with all the left-wing bashing and dishing in general here? That's one of the things I'm trying to move away from. I'm trying to move away from that. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, guys. We've got people from every part of the political spectrum. So yeah, I'm trying not to go down any rabbit holes. I'm staying away from the political rabbit holes, especially if we get into right versus left or left versus right. It's like, yeah, we're going to move away from that. Let's get back to the finance. Exactly. Broadcom production backlog is $488 billion, or 1.5 of US GDP. Nice. All right, there is a lot of anger stewing. Oh yeah, all right. We're not gonna talk about Charlie. Is Janet Yellen still there? Didn't Trump replace her, or is it the same situation as Jerome Powell? I thought she was still in the House, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. Rami, I'm an investor. Look at the facts. Yep, all of that fun. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that we're all investors. All right, I'm jumping over a few things here. When I worked at TELUS, if you didn't work with tools, your job wasn't safe for the last 25 years. And that's exactly what I'm getting to. If you think of AI as a tool, you learn how to use it, that makes you a little bit more valuable. Whereas somebody who doesn't know how to use AI, well, they're in trouble. Cowboy says trades are not replaced by AI. Can't say that about tech jobs. And that's the thing. AI will eventually, like a lot of the institutional investors are using AI to give them an edge when it comes to investing. So yeah, I can even see things like day trading being incredibly hard because you're, to be successful at, whereas AI will have it pretty much figured out. So It's going to be interesting. I think it'll be very interesting in the future. Can you buy liquor in Canada on Sunday? You can't. Really, you can't. Yeah, you can. You can buy liquor on Sunday. Have you heard of Luxfolio or Light Strategy? Yet. I have not, but I'm thinking it has something to do with Litecoin. I'm thinking, but I know I haven't run into that yet. Paul says, so when is being self-sufficient and taking care of your family right wing? Oh, yeah, we're not going to get into that, Paul. Let's see. All right, I think you can. I think you can. Yeah, you can definitely buy alcohol in Canada. Yeah, yes, you can. 7 days a week. Um, yeah, the only thing I can, well, there's one thing I do know. And maybe this has changed, but I know in Quebec, you can buy you can buy beer and stuff in the grocery stores. But once you hit a certain time at night, I think they won't sell it to you anymore. Because I remember somebody telling me that they were trying to buy beer, but they got past it was too late, so they weren't allowed, the store wouldn't sell it to them because of the time. Now, anybody in Quebec know about this? I don't, because I just heard that, so I don't know how much validity there is to that. So, Larry says my quotes are from 2022 Biden administration. When they were denying a recession. It was only 3 to 8 months, depending on how you play with the numbers. Since job reports are fake, same with unemployment. I don't know. You know, I'll say this one thing about job reports. You know, Trump didn't like the last the job reports before last, but the reports coming out since then, he's not liking them either. So, hard to say. Bars are open 7 days a week in Alberta. All right. And Kelly. The carbon tax opens up European trade benefits with CBAM. I don't pretend to fully understand it, but there are some benefits. Okay, fair enough. And I haven't looked at CBAM, so I don't know a lot about CBAM. But not in the grocery stores. Okay, so there we go. Here's what I was looking for. Rami, thank you. So yeah, there it is. You can buy alcohol until 11 p.m. So there you go. If you got a grocery store open past 11, they can't sell you alcohol at that point. Even though they have it, they can't sell it to you. All right. Woohoo. All right, now let's let's try to. I'm trying. Oh, I'm almost caught up. Oh boy, I like that. Claude says, hello. Very intrigued to see MDA space stock this week. Don't know if it will drop further. Okay, and I do have a story on that. I know that we've only gotten 2 stories done so far. Kevin Cass, appreciate Rami bringing up the politics thing and agree. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to, I don't mind. If you guys want to talk politics in the chat, feel free, but I'm going to jump over. I'm going to not bring it into the main conversation to the best of my ability. Occasionally we're going to slip, but I'm going to try. See, some Safeways in BC sell wine. Invested in the Europe carbon tax with Sermons. Bought 80, now 120. They own the software that will be collecting all the fees. Simmons. Okay. How do you buy a membership to your channel? Okay. All right. Very, very easy. So when you actually here, let me show you. I think I have. Oops, where we go here? Let me see here. This is the channel. So ignore the rest of it. But I think down in here, I'm just gonna scroll. I'm gonna scroll past here. Down in here, next to the name and everything, there should be like a little thing that shows right now where it says see perks. That's a membership thing. So normally, if you're not a member, it'll have join. I think it says join. You just click on that. You run through. It sets you up. Simple as that. It's pretty darn easy. All right. Cowboy, can't take Quebec beer into New Brunswick or other way too? Okay. Interesting. But how are they going to know? That's the thing, right? If you live, say Edmundston, you're pretty close to the Quebec border. You could easily drive up there, get some beer, and bring it back. It's not like anyone's checking you at the border. But, anyway. Jack says, I just do the 5-finger discount at the government liquor store. Oh, boy, Jack. That's terrible. But funny. All right, let's jump to our next story. Let's actually get a story here done. Most of the stories this week, I don't think there's anything too heavy because I mean, obviously our lead off wasn't that great. Well, it was okay. I mean, it was a good story, but I mean, as in big. Anyway, all right, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. All right, so there's a new scam coalition in Canada. So basically they're calling it the New Canadian Anti-Scam Coalition. It has officially launched and it's bringing together about 50 companies. So we're looking at the big six banks, all of our telecoms, Google and Meta are coming in as well as law enforcement and a bunch of government agencies. So the whole idea is they want to tackle scams because right now they're costing Canadians an estimated 6 to 12 billion, and that's from 2024. So this year, obviously, we don't have that data yet because this year's not over. Now, here's the interesting thing. So they're estimating 6 to 12 billion, but the officially reported losses were only 647 million, but it's estimated that about 5 to 10% of people getting scammed actually report it. And yeah, a lot of people say, I got scammed. They just take the loss. That happens a lot. Or people are embarrassed. You get scammed because you clicked on something you shouldn't have, and after that you're like, oh God, I should have known better. I don't want to tell anybody that this happened to me. I'm gonna bite the bullet, take my loss. It happens a lot. Now, scamming is getting even more and more. It's not always that. You look back at it now and say, oh God, I should have known better, because now AI generated deepfakes they're making scamming a lot more sophisticated. And that fraud is, look at the ones that they did with Carney. They did deepfakes of Carney to try to get people to invest in things that were scams. Now, Australia has a similar coalition, and since they brought it all together and started working together, they have had their scam losses fall roughly 26% in a year after they created their coalition. So we're hoping to see the same thing in Canada. So some of the things that they're going to be doing is, in October, they're launching the National Stand Against Scams campaign. And they're also looking at creating some better information sharing across banks, telecoms, and tech firms to try to identify the scams and stop them in their tracks. And they're also looking to block a lot of these fraudulent websites, calls, and texts before they even reach the consumer. That would be nice. I get a lot of scams that pop up on my phone. So if the telecoms can start actually blocking these things, that would be great. Especially, and unfortunately, one of the groups in Canada that get hit the worst are seniors. And I would love it if they get less of them on their phone, then there's a less of a chance that they're going to fall into some of these traps. And I absolutely 100% think this is a good move. Now, this coalition, it does signal a major coordinated fight against cybercrime. Fantastic. If I have any questions about this, I'm like, why didn't we do it already? Why is it only happening now? And of course, those scammers using AI, new digital tools, the scale of fraud is going to become way too big for banks or even law enforcement to manage on their own. So this coalition, I think, is a big thing. And if we can protect billions in consumer savings, it will certainly help preserve confidence and spending power, and that will support Canada's overall financial system big time. So yeah. Oh boy, you gotta love it. You gotta love it for sure. All right, guys, I'm gonna do two stories at a time each time we jump in. Let's talk a little bit about aluminum. I know we talked about copper already. So of course, with aluminum, we got a 50% tariff on the aluminum that we send to the U.S., and it's kind of reshaping our trade flows. So, and we talked about Rio Tinto earlier, but they're one of the big Quebec producers. So Rio Tinto, Alcoa, and Alouette. And they're actually redirecting shipments away from the U.S. to new trading partners in Europe. So the U.S. share of Quebec aluminum exports has dropped from 95% in Q1 to 78% in Q2. Europe's share at the same time, it's jumped from 0.2% in Q1 to 18%. Now, for Alouette, they're really doubling down. 57%. So 57% of their output went to Europe in Q2, and Q1 it was 4%. So this is really, really interesting. U.S. Midwest premium, so it has surged 82% since June, while Europe's premium has fallen due to the increased supply, because Europe's getting it and the U.S. isn't. So the U.S. is now being forced to charge more for it because they're running out. It's great. I love it. It's like you're kind of getting what you sowed here by putting those big tariffs on it for sure. And so industry leaders are actually saying Europe is a buffer market, but they warn that this could become a paradigm shift, in trade flows. I'm liking it. I'm very, very much liking it. So some of the impact for investors is that, well, some of those companies like Rio Tinto, Alcoa, Alouette, diversifying their sales to Europe is going to soften the tariff impact on them, which is fantastic. It does mean that their margins may still be pressured by, of course, logistics costs and price shifts, but it could be good overall for these companies. U.S. manufacturers, they're going to be looking at higher input costs and potentially squeezing out their profits. That's kind of what's going to happen. They're not going to get that Canadian aluminum. European buyers are going to benefit from, of course, cheaper Canadian aluminum as oversupply pushes those premiums down. So it's a good time if you need aluminum in Europe, and not a great time in the United States. And, the United States brought this on themselves because of those tariffs. So what can I say? All right, let's get back. Oh boy, let's get back to the chat. Where were we? Up here. Jay says buying liquor in Winnipeg is like going into the airport. Identification, please. Bootlegging. Yes. Niece says, I, as a Swedish man, voted no to join European Union. There is some plus and more negative stuff, but free trade is great, and you are welcome, Canada, to the trading. Oh yeah, absolutely. Sweden. Sweden's awesome. Like I love. I was gonna say Scandinavia, but yeah, Sweden's part of Scandinavia. I was thinking for a sec. For some reason, in the back of my head, I was thinking Switzerland, but yeah, no, Sweden, Norway. Scandinavia, I think, is awesome. It's actually interesting. I kind of see Sweden and Norway in particular, climate-wise, they're very, very close to Canada. We got kind of the same climate swings with the north. So, there's kind of that kinship here. Kind of that kinship for sure. Rory says, is there a way to trade the E-mini in Canada? Not sure. I do not know. Jack says, Sweden is a beautiful country. Beautiful women, great hockey players. Yes, there's, I think the Sedins, who were big in Vancouver, I believe they're from Sweden. I believe the Sedins are Swedish. And there have been, of course, others as well. Cowboy, I gave up landline because of telemarketers and scammer. Always buy iPhones on my non-existent credit card. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I almost never answer my phone unless the caller ID shows me somebody who's a call I'm expecting. Other than that, I mean, I get calls, and sometimes I don't even know if they're trying. It's like, you're getting a call from someplace in the middle of the United States. It's like, why would I be getting a call from somewhere in the middle of the United States? It's obviously scam of some sort. Niece says, thanks. We also have JAS military plane that Canada was thinking of buying. They can start and land on the roads. Ooh, it's a mighty sight to see them land and take off from the roads. Well, that's kind of cool. I think we need, especially up north, right? Up north, runways are a little more scarce. But now this is where we would have to sort of consider with permafrost. Is permafrost going to be able to support, especially if we, if the climate's warming. Will permafrost, will the permafrost be hard enough for a plane like this? I don't know, but we'll see. Who gets more snow in winter, Sweden or Norway? Good question. Good question. I do know that Norway gets a heck of a lot. Now, I'm going to take an educated guess, or maybe even a wild guess. I'm going to say, I don't know. I was going to say, I'm thinking Norway, but I think it's close. I think you could probably argue either, but if I had to guess, Nice, let us know. Am I right or wrong? Jack, I'll have to look up the JAS, but I 100% support trade with Sweden over the US and China, for sure. Sweden has great players. Nylander is my favorite. Okay, there we go. Esa Tikkanen from Finland, I think. Let's see. Sweden and Norway and Finland are all neighbors, so it depends on the weather. Yeah. I was trying to think about weather systems, like with with the water, but then I was just like, well, there's kind of water on all sides, so yeah. Peter Forsberg is Sweden. Yeah, Peter Forsberg was huge. The JAS 39 Gripen looks like the military jets in GTA 5. Okay, that's a good reason to like it. Let's see, there was talk of stopping the full bundle of the F-35 and going with the Gripen. Okay. Oh, and I caught up. So that means we can do another story. All right. We haven't done a rent update in a while. So rents are continuing to fall. I like the sounds of this. So August marked the 11th consecutive month of falling average rents across Canada. So the national avenue, their asking rent is $21.37, so that's down 2.3% year over year, but it's still above the pre-pandemic level. So in 2020, the average rent in Canada was $1,718. Oh boy! Now we have had provincial. If we look at it provincially, Alberta has seen the biggest declines. So rents in Alberta, the average rent has dropped 3.5%. In BC, 2.7%, Ontario, 2.5%, Nova Scotia, 2.2%, and Quebec, 0.2%. So a little bit of declines. I'm liking that. Now, looking at it from the city level, Vancouver has seen the biggest decrease. The average rent in Vancouver has dropped 10%, going down to $2,820. Even with that, it's still Canada's priciest market. Toronto was down 3%. Calgary down 7%. Saskatoon was up. Saskatoon was up 7%. Average rent going up to $1,443. Still one of the cheapest places in the country, but they were up. Regina, Edmonton, and Winnipeg were also all up about 1%. So affordability challenges, of course, remains. So to afford, and I mentioned this. If you want a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto, $78,000. $78,000. Oh boy. That's not the rent, guys. That's how much you need to make. I just want to be clear. Do you imagine? Rent's due. Where's my $78,000? Oh boy. That must be a really nice apartment. That's Toronto. It would be a really nice small apartment. Canada's rental market, at least it is finally easing after years of some of the sharp increases. But that relief, as we just saw, pretty uneven. Big cities are still absolutely unaffordable. Smaller markets are showing mixed results. And we're even seeing a few fresh spikes, like Saskatoon there. Lower rents, though. The nice thing about that is they could help ease headline inflation. And that could potentially help the Bank of Canada stay on the rate-cutting path, perhaps. That would be kind of cool. All right, and as I said, we'll do. Let's nail it. Let's nail the news. We got 2 more articles left. We'll get through them here really quickly. We have a little bit of an interesting one. So the National Bank. So the National Bank is basically they're leading Canada's push for a stable coin backed by the loonie. So they're the first of the big six to basically back a Canadian dollar stable coin. So they've joined a group of actually a pretty big group: Shopify, Wealthsimple, ATB Financial, ShakePay, Urbana, and a few others. They've put in about $10 million of funding for a group called Tetra Digital Group. So Tetra Digital, they're planning to launch a regulated loonie pegged stablecoin in early 2026 once they have received regulatory approval. So right now, I know they're waiting on Alberta and a few other districts or provinces. It will be a fully backed 1-to-1 with the Canadian dollar, and the reserves will be held domestically. So no money leaves Canada. So about 30% of that 10 million of funding is going to go towards issuing the stablecoin. The rest will help build out Tetra's custody business and expand its software platform. So why the heck are they doing this? Couple of good reasons. Global stablecoin transaction volumes are pretty darn massive, and they're growing. That's kind of an important thing. And right now, they're currently dominated by US dollar pegged tokens. So in Canada, the M2 money supply, which is a broad measure of money in circulation and also near equivalents, it's about 2.724 trillion in Canadian as of June 2025. It's interestingly enough that it usually goes up about 5.25% year over year. Anyway, that's what it does. There is concern that if we do not have a homegrown stablecoin, Canadian business and consumers may drift towards some of the US stablecoins for transactions. And of course, this move could also mark a turning point in how money moves in Canada. A regulated stablecoin tied to the loonie offers some promise: faster, cheaper, and more seamless transactions domestically and, of course, internationally, all with a Canadian flavor. I like it. Why not? I guess it also gives Canada closer to financial sovereignty in the digital finance sector, not just letting those US stablecoins dominate. All right, we got one last story, and this is the one that you guys have been talking about. It's at number 7, but MDA. So MDA Space, their shares plunged after they lost a $1.8 billion satellite contract to SpaceX. It's all Elon's fault, guys. It's Elon's fault. So MDA Space, so MDA-T, they lost a $1.8 billion contract with U.S. telecom EchoStar after EchoStar sold its spectrum rights to SpaceX for basically $17 billion. Now, this did cause MDA shares to drop big time. We're talking about 25%. They closed at $32.99. We'll take a look at MDA here in a second. Let me get through the story, and then we'll pull up MDA. So the U.S. The FCC, so the U.S.'s organization, the Federal Trade Commission's group, they had a lot of scrutiny of EchoStar's spectrum use, and it led to probes and regulatory pressure. Without, of course, spectrum, EchoStar no longer needed the MDA's 100-plus planned 5G satellites. So the FCC had a big part in why this all failed, unfortunately. It's never good. It happens. SpaceX, of course, gains valuable spectrum to expand its Starlink and direct-to-cell services, including partnerships with, of course, T-Mobile in the U.S. and, Rogers in Canada. Oh, boy. Now, MDA, it still has a $4.6 billion pipeline of low Earth orbit LEO satellite opportunities, despite the setbacks, so they're going to be fine. It hurt their growth story for sure. I had pegged MDA as being a very up-and-coming company. I think they're still going to do fine, though. I think they will still, and I think they're going to pick up on a lot of the infrastructure growth in Canada, especially some of the Arctic and space stuff. Now, the interesting thing about this is that there was a contract in this, and that contract, of course, they will be compensated for some of this loss. So they are going to get some money back from this, but nonetheless, it's not great. It's not great. It's not great for MDA. Right now, they will take a heavy short-term hit to the stock price, which we've already seen. That compensation, I said, it's going to soften the blow for sure. And the bigger risk is that they had momentum going into this. Now they've kind of lost that momentum. And with that, unfortunately, investor confidence. Those are kind of the lingering effects of this, but I still think they will be fine in the long term. All right, let's take a look at MDA. Let me get over to our share screen. Eek, we don't want to see that. All right, MDA, here we go. All right, MDA space. We'll pull them up here. And oh boy, I haven't even expanded this yet, and you can already see the drop right there. Yeah. So look at this. Look at the momentum they had coming into this, and somebody at MDA went bungee jumping. It looks like. Yikes! Big time drop. So yeah, if you're holding MDA, what do? That's kind of that thing. Personally, I would not sell at $30.80. I do think they'll be fine. I think we will see some recovery. It may take a little while, but if you are holding this, I wouldn't get too concerned and realize losses, because I think they'll recover. I think they'll be fine on the long term. All right, guys, that's the news. The only other thing is next week, of course, Wednesday. That's the day we're all looking at. That's going to be our rate decision day on both sides of the border. Love it. All right. Let's... whoops. Oh, how did I get that over here? All right. Let me get rid of that. Boom. There we go. That's the news. Let's hit the chat. It's now just you and I until the end of the show. Rory, Edmonton is always cheaper than Calgary for housing. Been that way for years. I can see that, because you know what? Calgary has some huge advantages over Edmonton when it comes to weather. Because at least in Calgary, you've got the Chinooks. You need a really strong Chinook for it to reach Edmonton. So Edmonton's going to be colder. The winters are just going to be a lot more colder, and if that's not your thing, then Calgary is probably your better. All right. What is VRVP on TradingView, and how does the price follow those shelves? VRVP, that's a good question. Is that is it an indicator? That's what I'm thinking. Let me just take a look here. Indicators. VRVP. Let's see here. Multi-time frame dynamic. Good question. I do not know what it is. I've never used it, Paul. I don't know if it will give me any. So let me see here. Let's see. Highlights the most traded prices over a time. Interesting. Okay. Volume profile is often used by traders to identify basic support and resistance levels. Okay. So yeah, this is kind of what I do manually, but I think what it's doing is it's kind of helping you. It's kind of guiding you by looking at those most common sells and buys and creating basically support and resistance lines out of that. That's what it looks like it's doing. Yeah, that's an interesting tool. I've never actually used it. I would normally do all of my charting myself, because I can tell when I look at something, I can see where, you look at where things are changing direction. And then what I will normally do is draw my line to best fit between the data points that I have. So that kind of, let's, you know what? I have not been to, let's go to the whiteboard. Here we go. Good old white. I love the whiteboard. Oh, I do not have it up, do I? Here I was showing you. Anyway, yeah. Here is that. I was pulling it up here. So yeah, this is that tool right there. So anyway, let me explain it on the whiteboard a little bit of what I was thinking about. Where is that whiteboard? Over here. All right. Tools. I want to draw. We'll just use this one here. I'm just going to draw. I'm going to do a blue line. I'll do a blue line. All right. So All right, just gonna do, there we go. Let's just say we got some sideways movement here. All right, so if this is some sideways movement, let's just say that's what your stock is doing. So one of the things that I will do is I'm going to grab this little one here, is I will start to chart things. So I will look at, and I'm going to use, I want to use a different color. Let's go with this here. We'll use this fuchsia color. I'll be looking at a couple of things. I'll be looking at highs and lows. Highs, there's my lows down here. And here are my highs. So I will be looking at these when I'm trying to figure out what type of a channel it has. So obviously, oh, and we got right down here. So obviously, if you notice, we don't have, and I'm going to draw a line. Let's pull up a line tool here. I do not have, oh, come on, give me my line, please. Here we go. All right, we'll use these lines here. I can change the size of these lines. There we go. All right, I'm looking for my channel. So what I'm looking for is supports. So supports, of course, it means that it will support that movement. And you'll notice here that we don't have, like, we can't say that that's it, but we can't say that that's it or that's it. You know, it's somewhere in between. So what I will normally do is I'll sort of look and I'll try to do my best. Like, I will probably run through these two here. I'm a little bit higher than these ones, a little bit lower, but that's going to be roughly the average, or it might be closer to there. So I'm going to come up with an average. So that's, for me, this is going to be my level of support right here. My resistance is, well, you only hit so high and then you're bouncing back. So that's your resistance. So once again, I'm going to look at these lines and I'm going to say, okay, well, probably right about here. So, you know, once again, you're doing an average between the two. Now, that's my channel that this asset is currently moving in. So one of the things I always talk about is, and I'm going to create some more lines here. Actually, this time, yeah, let's do it. I'm going to create two more lines here. All right, but I'm going to change the color. Let's make these ones, I'll make them green. All right, so I'm going to create these two more lines. Control-C, Control-V. There we go. I got two lines. So what I'm going to do is when it comes to trading, I'm going to create a bit of a buffer here. So I'm not going to trade on the support lines. No way. Because look at what happens. See how this one didn't make it there? So if I've got my trade set up there, I've missed that trade. If I bought it down in here and I'm trying to sell it, I've missed it. So I'll create these little buffers. So how I will then do it is, let's get back to the draw. And actually, we'll go with a big one, and I'll put this here. We'll put this in orange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell up here. I'm going to buy here on the green. So that's where I'm going to set my, my stuff, because I know how this is moving. Like I said, if I don't sell here and I'm trying to sell here, well, this time I would have missed it. And then, by the time I've broken this line down here, I might actually, maybe I'm panicking. Maybe I'm having FUD and I end up selling at a loss. I'm not going to do that, but, some people might. So I will buy here. So I'll just drag this down. So yeah, I would have bought here and I would have sold right here at this green line, or at the very least, I would have some kind of a stop loss system depending on how fast this thing is moving. But I'm gonna sell here and then I'll come back down and I'll buy here. Yes, I could have bought better down here, but I don't know it's gonna go down that far. It could be like over here where it switched right away. So yeah, buy at that line, sell at that line, and I'm still, I still have a profit. This is my profit, whatever the difference is between those two lines. Now there will come a point. I'm going to go to blue, when this is going to either, break out or break down. It will happen eventually. And, in a case like that, here's the beautiful thing. If it breaks down and you are selling at that line, right, or you're buying at that line, if you're buying at that line and it sells down, then you're going to want to have like either an exit strategy. So you got a couple of ways you can handle it. You could have like an exit strategy. So maybe you've got a stop loss in there to sort of say, okay, well, if it drops below that, then I'm getting out of this trade. Now, it depends on what you're trading though, right? If I'm trading something that is a strong fundamental, They've got good numbers. I know they're going to come back up anyway. I may not do this. I might just ride it down, and maybe they're going to move sideways down here for a while before they eventually come back up. Let's just drag this over. Before they eventually come back up into that territory again. That could happen. And that's where I'm okay with that. But if it is a situation where you don't have that luxury, it's like, I need to be able to make more trades. I can't wait this out. Then you're going to want to use a stop loss. So in a case like that, you know, you may, for example, you may create another line. Maybe it's down here, and maybe that will be, we'll turn that to red. Maybe that's your stop loss. Like, you won't go below that level. And then that way there, you build in a system. Now, here's the thing. When you are swing trading, you might have 6 trades. Are they all going to be successful? Nope, they're not. Are half of them going to be successful? Maybe. Your goal is to have slightly more than half successful. So if you have 60% successful, 40% unsuccessful, you're making technically you're making a 10% profit, right? So that's not a bad thing. That's kind of the way that you want to play that. Anyway, I went off on a tangent, didn't I? Jack says, I was going to say 78K in Toronto for what? A cardboard box? I know. Let's see, Jay, I guess I might be too old. I remember average rent back 300 to 400. Yeah, I know. And oh yes, a Burger King Whopper for $1.49. It's actually funny. I used to, before I went to work, back in the day, I used to go to Burger King. I used to always pick up a chicken heavy cheese meal. I used to pick that up. That used to be one of my favorites. So, and the funny thing is, the price, it always came to $6.66. And I'd always get a look. And I was like, I didn't pick the price. You picked the price. But anyway, it was always kind of funny. And now, if I were to go and get a chicken sandwich heavy cheese at Burger King, and I bet you'd be closer to $15 now. I mean, it's just, what can I say? Cowboy, roach motels in Toronto, nasty. Yes, there are roaches there's also other bugs that you might run into in Toronto as well. So you want to be careful. Like I said before, there's room under the Milton Water Tower. Nice. I missed a $5 Canadian footlong. Now we have $5.99 6-inch as a deal. Really? Oh, wow. Yikes. Grizzly saying recession. Yeah. You know what? Many people right now they're spending like we are in a recession. And, you know, maybe in the future, they'll call this the secret recession. Or or just the silent recession. Where it feels like a recession, absolutely. I will definitely say that for sure. Niece says, Jag 39 Gripen is a cheaper and costs less to fly. Built to flight of the enemy, Russia, and only a few land crew needed to refill and rearm a plan like 5 to 10 minutes, and it's ready to take off again. Oh, nice. Yeah, well, that sounds pretty cool. Well, hopefully you never have to fight against Russia. But if you ever do, we'll be there with you. We'll be there. Niece says they did a successful test with artificial intelligence flying and fighting targets. Yeah, I can definitely see that. A lot of the drones now use AI for sure. Personally, I don't do Bitcoins of any flavor. Can't see any place I deal with accepts it. All right, fair enough. Let's see. That's why it dropped. I just got more when it happened. MD Space. Is that what I believe that's what you're talking about? Yeah. Isaac says I actually bought MDA on the deep and it went down even more days after. Hold on. I think you'll be fine. Roy says I hope Powell doesn't disappoint. I think it's going to happen. I'm pretty sure. Even the last meeting, it wasn't unanimous that they held steady. There was at least 2 members that wanted a 25 basis point. So, yeah, I think it's going to happen. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. No matter the cut, Donald will get upset. Perhaps. He will disappoint. The Bears' only question is 2 or 3 0.25 rate cuts this year. All right. Rory says, no matter the cut, Donald will get upset. Scratch says, and hello, Scratch. I actually gave you a shout out at the beginning of the show, Scratch, so you'll want to go back and catch that. Hello, Candace. Do you find value in the fully paid securities lending program? No. It's not that like, I assume, like, let me just make sure that we're talking about the same thing. I think you're talking about, like, lending your securities, like the thing that Wealthsimple does, for example. I think that's what you're talking about. I could be wrong, but I think that's what you're talking about. And in that case, there, you're not really making much. You're making pennies. You could do it. It's not going to hurt, but don't get any high expectations of making of it being another income stream, because it's not. It's pennies. Jack says definitely will still blame. Too late for Powell. Too late, Powell. Probably. Cowboy says Calgary is also much larger population than Edmonton. That has the supply-demand ratio going harder. Yeah. I mean, and Calgary's a beautiful city. I mean, it's hard not to love Calgary. Let's see. Calgary Metro is approaching 1.8 million. Edmonton Metro at 1.6. But the municipality of Calgary is way bigger. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you've ever driven into Calgary at night from the prairies or from the mountains, yeah, it's just like, it's huge. It is absolutely huge. Calgary also closer to the tourist spots. Yeah, absolutely. Like, basically from Calgary, it's about, 1 hour you can be in the mountains. 1 hour you can be in the prairies or Drumheller, like the, Dinosaur Provincial Park. I mean, it may be a little longer depending on traffic, on the speed, but, roughly an hour. Yeah, you can go. There's so many great places that you can go in Calgary. Calgary's pretty cool. I thought Calgary and area was 1.2 million people. Been wrong before. Okay, macro trends. Calgary surpassed Edmonton in 1984 in size. Okay. Calgary has the mountains an hour away, and their view increases house value too. Absolutely. Let's see. I know out by Cochrane, it is nice. West of Edmonton, it's all boring trees until you get to Hilton. Hilton and Conductor is a bad memory for a lot of us. All right, let's see. The last stop loss I tried on Wealthsimple, it didn't execute well after pulling back. Yeah, you got to be careful with a stop loss. So sometimes, guys, if you look at a stop loss, you may have, for example, you may have your bid and ask values, but you'll notice that you also have the share price. So sometimes, let's just say, for example, the share you're looking at, let's say it's $17.89, and bid ask, we'll say it's 1780 slash 1781. So if you set a stop loss for, let's say you're thinking, okay, well, it's at 1789. Let's set it for 17, and you're looking at the bid ask. Let's say 1779. We'll set it for. So you're hoping that if it drops below 1779, you're going to sell. Well, here's an unfortunate thing. It can drop below, like these numbers could drop. So let's say 1777, and we'll just say 1778. If these were to drop to this, but this price number just stays a little stubborn, and let's say it only drops to 1780, well, guess what? The stop loss is not using the bid ask. Nope. It uses this number here, the actual price. So even if the price says 1780, it will not trigger the stop loss, even though the bid ask might be both, they might both be below that stop loss. So sometimes you get some tricky stuff. Now, the other thing too is sometimes the price can jump so fast it can jump over your stop loss. That can happen, especially in severe volatility. So, and the other thing too is with a stop loss, a lot of brokers will let you create a range, and a range is good. A range is good because then you could sort of say, well, okay, I want to set my stop loss at 1799 or 1779, but what if it jumps over it? Let's say it's completely jumps over that, and all of a sudden that price is down at like 17 because there was a severe crash. you may not want to sell it there. So what range does is it gives you a limit. So you might say, okay, 1779, but I'm going to set this at 1775. So what this means is that it has to be between those values to sell it. So if it were to skip, like it just did a big gap, so you've seen gaps before, but if it gapped over it and dropped down to, let's say, 17, we'll just say 25. If it dropped down to 1725, you're good. It's not within that range, so it won't sell it on you. Whereas if you didn't have a range and it gapped over it, yeah, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So I know National Bank lets you do a range. I'm pretty sure I think most brokers are going to let you do a range, but I would definitely recommend that as well. Do a video on mean reversion. I could. It wouldn't do well. It won't do well, but there's a whole bunch. That's one of the problems with the channel. Anytime I do a tutorial like a video, it's like I need to sit out front of the video with a tin can saying, please, please watch my video, because it's going to do poorly. Which is why I don't do as many tutorials as I'd like to do, but I do try to squeeze some in every so often because they are evergreen. Rory, in our CN class, we were showed the Hinton incident. Oh, really? Interesting. Work rest rules are still not perfect. The last streak CN guys were pushing more rest. Yeah. I think rest is kind of important, especially nowadays. Like a lot of times, a lot of railroad tracks, and I've really discovered this. Because when I work out, I watch railroads. I watch the railroad in Norway. There's a person up there. What's her name? Rail Cowgirl. She has a channel and she just streams. She streams all of her rail stuff. So, there's like 3-4 hours. I think right now she's even got a live stream where she's just got a whole bunch of them put together. But I like to watch that when I'm working out, just watching the scenery go by. It makes it easier. It's fun. But one of the things I discovered with that is that for the most part, it's single rail. And it's handling the traffic in both directions. So everything's very coordinated. Like there's little areas where there's double rail. So, you pull in and you wait. They got a little red light there. You wait until the train passes before you go on. But yeah, I think in one of the videos, she put up some text that mentioned that at one point, one person got a little bit too ambitious and went past that red light, and it ended up causing a big disaster. Apparently it was many, many, many years ago, but people died. People died for sure. So yeah, so putting that in mind, and I don't know, in Canada, I don't know how many single we have, but I know even on the OC Transpo rails that we have here in Ottawa, there's a couple places where we have single tracks that the trains share, like a couple of stations. I think Dow's Lake, those of you familiar with Ottawa, that's a single track station. So only one train at a time. So they have to sort of coordinate to go into that station. So there's anyway, but what that gets back to is if you've got those type of scenarios, you want your drivers, you want your engineers rested. You don't want any kind of mistakes. Rory says the field incident is another nasty one. Minus 25 and no manual brakes were set. Manager is still at fault for that. Yeah. It's kind of like, there's like even the people who manage. Now, is that the yard master that would handle? I don't know. The yard master, I think, is only handling like a yard, but obviously the railroad version of a flight control person, that was probably a pretty stressful job too. Other than the fact that they're moving a little bit slower than planes. So you have time to sort of coordinate things, but you don't want to miss the ball. Rory, I don't know all the details of it. Neither do I. If you ain't ever been on the ground, you ain't railroading. Okay. I made the Edmonton Sun Cowboy for a derailment. Let's see. The oil train that burned up was another mess. Yeah, that's another reason too. A lot of times trains are carrying things that you don't want. You don't want having accidents. And I think I don't have a story on this, but I did see this on the news the other day. There's a community that is trying to get one of Canada's first nuclear waste sites. And they were concerned not so much about the site and how safe the site is, but they were concerned about the fact that if they're the only one, there'd be trains coming in from other parts of Ontario carrying nuclear waste. And they're like, well, trains get into problems all the time. So that's what they were worried about. Despite the fact that nuclear waste, it's not like a liquid. It's actually solid, and the stuff, even the containers that they travel in, they're designed for worst case scenario, like railroad disasters. They're designed to like they're pretty much solid concrete and everything else. So they are safe, but I can understand people being concerned. Absolutely. All right. Rory says, I've derailed a few times and been kicked off while switching long empty grainers. Oh, yeah, that must be, yeah. Is that called, Rory, bunting? Is that bunting? Jack says, damn, that caused you to derail. Just bad conditions. There was a mean picture of a guy fishing in a pothole during construction season here in Winnipeg. Great tourism ad for Winnipeg. Oh, boy. Yeah, that's funny. Remember the Mississauga derailment brought in all the WEMAS stuff and placards. Yes. Workplace Hazardous Information Materials Safety. That's what WEMAS stands for. Lots of conditions. Yep. I'm very, very familiar with that. I mean, I used to work in a lab, so I know a little bit about that. Rory, not all derails are newsworthy. The media doesn't report 95% of it. Most are nothing burgers. Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of times, it's just a matter of bringing in a second train, like one of the ones that has the little cranes on it to get the train back on the track, and you're good to go. YouTubers, this is our retirement channel from Canada. Norm and Tina. Norm based away at 70 years old during a heart. Passed. Oh, that's not good. I haven't watched that channel, but yeah, that's not good. I wonder if they're going to continue. Let's see. Lots of cars off dumping ballast. Butterfly was the saving grace. Dispatcher is a stressful. Yeah. There we are. Dispatcher. That's what I was looking for. Yep. Crews and managers are fighting all the time. Slack runs out, Candace, and I kicked me off the NCAR. Fool me once. Yes. What can I say? All right. Ooh, let's go big screen. All right. We're past 2 hours, so if you got your last minute questions, now's the time. Get them in before it's too late. Definitely get them in before it's too late. Next video, guys, coming up on Tuesday, or if you're a channel member, tomorrow, we're going to be going back to the windfall, and this time, $100,000 on an income portfolio. More stocks, more income. Oh, it's going to be great. The following week, we're going to do the total return one as well. So the growth dividend version. So what's going to be really interesting, and I've already seen some interesting from these results, is comparing just the growth on each portfolio with the different styles. So I can tell you, for example, the hybrid style had more growth than the income style, but we're talking just growth. We're not talking income. So it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how much higher the dividend growth will have when I do that one next week. But it's going to be cool. Are you adding any more rail stocks? Not this month. Last month I did add another share of CN to the 0 to 100K challenge. So I'm done with rail stocks for the moment. It's already a little bit. I'm a little bit over diversified into CNR, but I had to take advantage of the slow prices. So no more rail for now. That slack can be brutal. Making a joint at 8 miles per hour. Roadmaster took out the stove in the caboose. Yeah, and do they even, like, I've noticed, most of the trains I've seen lately no longer seem to have cabooses. So, what's up with that? I don't know. All right. Ouch. A personality conflict. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, Rami comes in with a last minute question. Do you think Canoe will ever raise their dividends? I can give you my hopeful answer. My hopeful answer is yes, please, but they seem to be very happy with where they're at. They seem to be very happy at that 10 cents a dividend. So I'm skeptical that it will happen, but I really hope I'm wrong. I'll go with that. I hope I'm wrong, but it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Although I think they have the room to do it. I think they really do. But I think if anything, they will probably do more. They'll probably do more. They might even be inclined for a special dividend before they would actually consider raising it. What are your thoughts on using margin to buy HHIS just before the record date to get distributions and sell once it gets back to the price you paid for it? That's a strategy. So you're looking, that's basically what we call dividend capture strategy. I don't like the idea of margin though. And I'll tell you why, because you got to be careful. I mean, if, let's say, you took out the margin to do this, and let's say we had a tech crash while you were waiting for HHIS to get back, and HHIS doesn't get back. Well, yeah, you can wait that out if you're holding HHIS. You're not going to be able to wait out the margin. You're going to get margin called on that, and you will have to, you'll either have to pay it back, you'll either have to find some place you can pull that money from, which might force you to sell some of your HHIS at a loss. So that's why I'm a little bit hesitant with a margin, because it can create some pretty bad scenarios. All right. Rory says, Fred caused the brakeman to lose jobs on the tail end. Oh, boy. Yes, indeed. Fred ain't safe. Have to break the air to apply brake. Now, here's the interesting thing. I don't actually know what Fred is. I do not know what Fred is. I'm assuming it's an acronym or an abbreviation for something. But I do not know. At first, when you guys started talking about Fred, I was wondering, is that like somebody I should know? But I don't know what Fred is. Now I need to know. I need to know what Fred is. Before we can leave today, I need to know what Fred is. And here we go. Thing rare end device. Okay. All right. Okay. End of train device. Okay. All right. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. All you railroad folk, you've given me the thing. You've given me the answer. I like it. I love it. All right. Well, guys, I think that's it for today. I got nothing else for you. Like I said, we'll be back here Wednesday, market close, and we got Tuesday. We got that show. It's gonna be a good word. It's a good word. I was looking at Rory saying it's a cuss word. It's gonna be a good word. No, it's gonna be a great show. And the next video, fantastic. The video after that, oh yes, that's gonna be something interesting as well. The video after, so next Friday's video, that's the video that I asked you for a whole bunch of S&P 500 ETFs for. So the next 3 videos are absolute bangers. I can't wait. It's exciting. It's exciting. And as we're heading out the door, JJ is coming in the door with a quick howdy. Yeah, basically, yeah, you're not even the last minute. JJ, my buddy, my friend, my moderator, you have joined at the last second.